In this episode of Hockey Inside Out, we asked the panel what they would do with Alex Galchenyuk if they were in charge, and also, are the Habs doomed? My name's Adam Susser, and I'd like to welcome you all to this week's show, along with my trusty sidekicks, Stu Cowan, CBC Daybreak's Jessica Rusnak, and Mr. Chris Nilan. Thanks for showing up, guys. Here's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. Number one, is the Habs' bad start to the season temporary or just a sign of more to come? Number two, what are the positives you've seen from the Habs so far? Number three, what would you do to get the Habs back on track? Number four, what are your first impressions of Jonathan Drouin playing at center? And number five, if you were Claude Julien, what would you do with Alex Galchenyuk? Let's start the show. 4 games into the season, the Habs are 1-3 and have been outscored 13-4. Ouch. Small positive takeaway from their play as they've managed to largely outshoot their opponents in their last 3 games. They just can't seem to get it in the net. Now, I don't know what the rest of the season is going to look like for the Habs. I'm no future teller. Lucky for me, though, I happen to be sitting next to 3 future tellers right here, so I'll just ask them. Are the Canadiens just off to a rough start, or should the Habs fans buckle up and prepare themselves for a season of disappointment and frustration?
Well, lack of scoring, that hasn't been a Canadiens problem for very long, has
Not
it?
to this extent, I don't know.
Well, you know, Claude Julien said at the morning skate the other day that they got to take the puck to the net. They're getting shots, they're coming from the outside. You got to go to the net with the puck. And they did a little bit better job against the Blackhawks, but obviously not good enough. And it seems like they changed coaches, they changed players, but the Canadiens still can't score. So I don't know, it doesn't look good, put it that way, for now going forward. Eventually the puck will go in the net, but how many times, we'll see.
I think they don't have a spark plug as well as that one player that's able to sort of, take the lead and show that, make up for everyone else when they're in a rough time. But it's not easy when it's 4 games in and they're having such trouble scoring goals that you have to figure out, is it time to, make a few changes that get some fresh blood in here that hasn't been around this team from last season to this year and see what they can do.
Yeah, you know who was good at that? Alexander Radulov. He was,
well, it's true. He was kind of that spark plug that he was very contagious. His enthusiasm, he was able to, step up when needed, but they don't have someone like that right now.
And Radulov sparked Pacioretty last year, I think, too, right, Chris?
Yeah, I think he sparked the whole team the way he played, but he's gone. He's not here. He didn't want to be here. If he wanted to be here, he'd be here. He's not. As far as the team, listen, the last 2 years they got up to great starts, right? They had 9 wins early in the season. It looked great, everything.
People planned the Stanley Cup parade.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Reverse psychology.
This year it doesn't start so well.
Yeah.
But listen, I heard for years people bitch and moan about, this team, the defensive, they trap. Well, now they push the pace a little more. They're opening up. And if you notice, especially the Ranger game, they gave up 3 2-on-1s in the first period. And it was great, though. We had lots of shots. They didn't capitalize on those 2-on-1s. And if you look last night's game, they're kind of glaring mistakes that end up in goals, like on the Weber pinch, no coverage there. Mm-hmm. So when you press and you want to try and score more goals like they are, you're going to have those problems. You're going to give up them 2-on-1s. You're going to give up the odd man situations. And Carey Price is expected to stop those pucks. But it's not always easy on those odd man rushes like the 3-on-1 last night against the rookie Victor Mete. He was in a bad situation. He did the best he could, but no one came back to cover for Weber.
Well, Price has an .899 save percentage, which isn't helping things either. I mean, the stats are a little out of whack because of that game in Washington. But
only 4 games.
But exactly. But I think one of the other concerns is not just that Canadians aren't scoring; it's how everybody in every other team seems to. Like, so many teams are scoring a lot of goals. The Leafs, the Vegas Golden Knights are scoring goals like crazy, and the Canadians aren't. So there is reason for concern, but it is only 4 games into the season.
So, Chris, you talk about them picking up the pace. What are other positives that you see in this team?
They have 2 shorthanded goals.
That could be your answer if you want that to be your
Nobody
answer.
got injured yet.
Yeah.
Well, it's Schlemko.
Yeah, you know what? I really like Byron. He's down the 4th line. He's a guy that probably shouldn't be there, but he always starts there and he ends up somewhere else. So maybe at some point he'll move his way up the lineup. I know the coach switched things around the 3rd. He was desperate for some scoring, tried to change things up. But, this team, again, they are shooting from the outside. Stu is right, and they are getting some quality chances. You look at Houdon last night, played really well. He had, and especially in the third, he had some good opportunities taking the puck to the net. Byron did, but no finish. Again, it's great having all those shots, but if you can't finish, power play's been, you know, they've had control and they've done some good things at times on it, but you have to score on the power play, especially when you're challenged like they are to score 5-on-5.
Well, Mete continues to be a positive for me. Watching the game last night, there was one play, it looked like he was beat along the boards. He sort of lost balance. I said, oh, he's going to get beat, but he managed to get up, change his angle, get back, cut the guy off. So he's continued to look good. And as Chris said, Charles Hudon, I thought last night looked good in the third period, and he looked angry. He threw some big body checks. It looked like he was upset and physically motivated
Yeah.
and hit a few, and he's not a big guy, but he threw a couple of big body checks. He created some chances. So I think Charles Hudon also has impressed me.
You know who else looked good last night? Jacob Delarose in the warm-up.
I think the top line looked good yesterday, especially in that first period. Showed some promise. I think there's definitely some work to be done with it, but so far I do like that chemistry of Pacioretty, Gallagher, and Jonathan Drouin. So if they can build and get a few goals, then maybe that's something that they can improve.
The power play hasn't scored,
0 for 14.
but they do look good. They're like almost like the Harlem Globetrotters throwing it around, but it's not working. You know, Weber's shots don't seem to be getting through. I mean, they're fun to watch, but they're not putting the puck in the net.
They don't score on a 5-on-3 last night. You know,
that was a big.
And Matt's playing catch down low.
Yeah.
At some point, you got one of those guys have to step out above that line and make something happen. They didn't. They just played catch for too long.
Take the puck to the
it
net.
cost them.
Yeah.
Okay. I want you guys to close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you're Claude Julien, okay? All your dreams have come true. What are you doing to set the Habs back on track?
Well, he talked after the game against the Blackhawks about guys are squeezing their sticks too tight and they're nervous, and I don't know how you what do you do at practice?
Take them all
Chris?
to LaRonde for the day. And let them go on the roller coaster.
They just need to have fun, is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, you've had some coaching experience, Chris. What do you do?
Hey, listen, you just keep going. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to sit them down and say, guys, here's the net. Look, it's not that bad. I mean, all these, play these mental games. You guys, get your ass in gear and get going.
Is that old scene from the Rocket movie?
Come
with Dick
on.
River dragging the net into
It's
the
like we
locker
gotta
room with the little
burp
puck
these-
and saying, the puck is this big, the net is that big. It's not that hard, guys.
We got to burp them, got to change their diaper, got to powder them. I mean, come on, kick them in the ass, get them going.
You know what I noticed in the opening ceremonies is they didn't do the passing of the torch like we've seen before. So maybe
Thank
that
God.
too. Yes, well, that's a sign that a lot of people were not happy with that. That you know, you're comparing these teams that really have not done anything to the glory days of the '70s. That they don't deserve to get the torch passed to them, and maybe them doing so is sort of a message as well that you need to earn yourself the right to get that.
Well, they
torch.
also announced a sellout for the home opener, but early in the day there were a lot of tickets still available on the Canadiens website looking for it, and there was, you know, there was pretty full. There was still some empty seats scattered around, but the thought that tickets would still be on sale for a Canadiens home opener the day of the game is surprising.
Okay. What are your first impressions of Jonathan Drouin playing at center?
So far, I don't think he's done anything for me to give him any negative attention for his position so far. He has looked good out there. So I think if he can continue it going, that'd be a really good sign for the Montreal Canadiens.
I think, you know, Max Pacioretty's known as a streaky scorer, and I think Drouin might be the same. I think they definitely have some chemistry there together. I think at some point they will click and they'll start putting the puck in the net. Excuse me, in the face-off circle, he's looked okay for a guy who hasn't really played that much center. He won a few draws against Jonathan Toews against the Blackhawks. So I don't think Jonathan Drouin is going to be the problem with this team this year. I think he's going to come around. I think there's other concerns besides him.
He surprised me, I guess, because he hasn't played center since junior, and he's been playing the wing down in Tampa. But you know, all you hear from the critics is that he's not that good in his own end. Now I've seen Alex Galchenyuk and him both now play in their own end, and Drouin is a whole lot better. He did make a mistake the other night, lost his man in New York, when the eventual goal scorer. I think it was the second goal, but again, he's done well. I like this kid. It seems like he'll push the pace. He has done one pretty well in the face-off dot, considering. A little time there. It's not easy to make that jump, and especially, you know, with the weight this kid has on his shoulders right now to carry this team into the promised land. So I think he's done pretty well.
His compete levels look pretty good too, and I think when you work hard, good things will eventually happen. And I mean, his skill level has been on display, especially in the power play, just his vision and the way he moves the puck around. So again, Jonathan Drouin will not be the problem with this team this year.
Okay, it's hard to fault Alex Galchenyuk at the beginning of the season because no one's really stood out. But is there anything you could think of that you would do to sort of?
Well,
get
he's
this guy?
he's standing out.
He's standing out.
Yeah, he's standing out for sure. What would I do?
Yeah.
I'd take the torch and light his ass on fire. What I do.
Okay.
So I think they needed the torch last night. That would have been the thing to do with the torch last night. And this kid got to get his feet moving. He doesn't move his feet. He gets over the blue line. He spreads his legs. You know, you have to keep your feet moving out there, especially in the offensive zone. You want to be a threat. He does it a lot. He stops skating. And that's one of his greatest assets. Yeah, he can handle the puck, and yeah, he got a great shot. But if you're not skating, you're not going to get it done. He often looks in between. He's looking to, spreads his leg. He's looking to pass. He's not shooting. He is the Temptations right now, a ball of confusion.
Well, that's what I think is the frustrating part with him, is that if he wants out of being with the Montreal Canadiens, will play well and get something for your value. They're not going to trade you now when you mean nothing to this team. So you're not helping yourself by, you know, not putting out the effort that we know that you can, and we've seen Alex Galchenyuk show.
Well, Claude Julien last night put Lehkonen up on the first line and dropped Gallagher down to play with Galchenyuk and Mitchell. And Galchenyuk and Gallagher have a long history together from coming up together, being roommates, and you wonder if maybe Gallagher can get him going a little bit. And, you know, I still think Alex Galchenyuk's not a center, but I think at one point you wonder, do you put him there for a game or two just to see if that might light a fire on him and maybe stop him from sulking? I know it's not, you don't want to reward a guy for not competing 100%.
He'll be helter-skelter then. It won't be...
But I think Claude Julien must be wondering what to do at this point right now.
Do you think if he was on another team, though, he'd suddenly become a consistent player? I mean, there are just guys out there that are just, their effort is shoddy. And he seems like one of those guys.
I think getting out of Montreal might help him, but the kid's got, you know, the family's around all the time. There's, no, if they trade Galchenyuk, you're trading more than just Alex Galchenyuk. You're trading the family with him. It's like a package deal.
Well, if they go to Winnipeg, I don't think they'd be too happy.
But if he was in a non-traditional hockey market, I don't think, you know, he'd walk around, nobody would know who he was, nobody would really care who he was. And I don't know if Alex Galchenyuk would like that, but it might be good for him moving forward as a hockey player. But, you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if it was me, I would just send him to the farm. And I'm not talking about the farm team. I'd say just go like work on a farm, learn how to be a man. Okay, I believe that's our show for today. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in at home. I'd like to thank the panel. Like and share the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And what are your thoughts on the topics we discussed today? We want to know, so leave us a comment in the comment section below. I'm Adam Susser, and I'll see you next week.